why did you decide to quit a company you were working for 18 years?
It was a very tough decision. And
How did you structure the sales team of Lemon Tree? You had management and leased units. So how did the management, owned and leased units sort of come together? If you can just share more light on this.
so I'll tell you how sales works typically. So you've got to explain the whole ecosystem to the owner. And I think they are very reasonable people. And by and large, in these things, let me tell you, there are things which they understand. That's a very naughty grin, but a very evil grin, yeah. I hope it's captured.
So you went to Mayo?
Yeah, I did my schooling from Mayo. I did a BCom honors from SRCC, and after that...
Did you get into sports quota? 3 learnings बता दो आप कि आपने ये आपके ये experience है आप ये सीखे Lemon Tree.
Every step of the way was a learning, yeah.
नहीं आप मेरे को specifics बताओ. आप sales वाले की तरह मत बात करो. आप मेरे को specifics बताओ.
I'll tell you, first and foremost is that it may sound a bit cliche, but it's always about location. And our business is all about location. Everything else secondary. The product is secondary, the brand is secondary. You put a hotel at the right location, it's a runaway success, guaranteed.
Where is Alivaa in the system, and why should I, let's say, not go with obviously a legacy brand like IHCL?
See,
or
my funda is very clear.
Yeah.
It is earn before you burn.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that I am serving an underserved hotel market. We are completely under-penetrated.
Who do you see as a competitor? Who's your co-founder? Tell us more about him, and why do you think a co-founder is important to start out?
It's very important to complement your skills. See, I was from sales and operations. I needed somebody from a financial background. So my co-founder...
How is technology going to play a role in Alivaa?
You know, I have some broad thoughts. If today, through Digi Yatra and through a kiosk, you don't need any human interaction and you could be literally at the tarmac boarding the aircraft. So why does the hotel check-in process require so much of human intervention?
So are you going to tie up with a brand for loyalty, or how are you going to...
I don't think loyalty is a game changer. It's important, but I'm here to break the norm here.
What is your end goal? A dear friend, the founder of Alivaa Hotels, ex-president of Lemon Tree Hotels, Vikramjit. Hi Vikram, welcome on Inside Scoop.
Thank you for having me on the show. And you've got me overdressed, but I guess I'll live with it.
The last podcast I was seeing you in a t-shirt, so I thought that I'll underdress. So Vikram, tell us about your journey, and especially the fact that you started out as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Moved into a profession and now back to entrepreneurship.
Exactly. So I think that's karma, and that's how life takes a full circle. I was born to a family of hoteliers, and my father ran one of the oldest hotels in Assam, which was very iconic back then. This was in a place called Jorhat. In fact, Jorhat is such that, when the proposal came and my wife was to marry me, she bought an atlas, because back in the day, Google didn't exist and she couldn't find Jorhat in the map. So I said, look at a map which says airports of India, and there you'll find Jorhat. And she thought she was getting married and going to this very fancy place. But when she landed there...
So where is Jorhat?
It's in Assam, very close to the Kaziranga National Park, a couple of hours from there.
How far from Guwahati?
300 kilometers from Guwahati.
And what is it famous for?
It's famous for tea. So it's surrounded by tea gardens. It's on the Assam-Nagaland border, and it's a beautiful place. I was born and brought up there. My parents lived there. We ran the oldest hotel in Assam, one of the oldest actually.
So when did that open?
So that opened way before I was born. I'm not letting my age in this show, but I can tell you that it was pretty much in the 50s, yeah. So very old, iconic hotel. If somebody belongs to that part of the Northeast, Upper Assam, they'll 100% would have heard of Hotel Eastern in Jorhat. So that's where I come from. So hoteliering was in my blood to start with.
So you went to Mayo?
Yeah, I did my schooling from Mayo. I did a BCom honors from SRCC, and after that...
Did you get in through sports quota?
So the next time I'll share my mark sheet on Inside Scoop Part 2, yeah. No, but you know what I did after that is not what normal people do. You know, you join a consulting firm, you join a CA firm. I joined hotels here.
So SRCC में आपने क्या करा?
So I'll tell you what. So I did my BCom honors program, and at that time Taj was setting up their management trainee program. And very much like the Oberoi school, they had set this program up on the lines of taking non-hotel school grads. So therefore, they went to colleges in DU. That's where the recruitment happened from. And, when the recruitment drive was happening in college, which typically does, the most glamorous stall was the Taj stall. So I said, let me go there. And so I was lucky to get selected for the management trainee program. And that day to today, I continue to be a hotelier.
So, but in the middle, were you managing Eastern?
Yeah, so
So tell us about Eastern. I want to know.
So that is, like they say, what they don't teach you at Harvard Business School, entrepreneurship teaches you. Coincidentally, I can say that because I've done a small little program at Harvard as well. But so I was at the Taj. I was there for about 4.5 years. And then I lost my father. So I had to go back and take care of the family business. So I ran my own hotel for 5 years, and what I learned there, the insides of the business, it wasn't about, just handling a department or handling a vertical. You had to do everything from strategic to tactical, from firefighting to guest handling. And I think those 5 years set the foundation of, what I did later in my life. And even today, when I've got the gumption and the conviction that I can become an entrepreneur, and I took the step. So I think the 2 chapters of my life, one, running my own hotel, and then running and joining Lemon Tree and working with a maverick entrepreneur like Patu Keswani. I think these 2 things laid the foundation of why I became an entrepreneur today and why I'm in this business.
So Eastern was how many rooms?
It was a small hotel. It was 15 rooms. It had the most iconic restaurant. The food was very famous. It was a more food and beverage led operation.
And how many people did you operate that hotel with?
From a ratio perspective, much less than what I do, much more than what I do today. Just to tell you, I run a 150-room hotel here where we are sitting with a staffing of 0.38.
We'll talk more about that.
I'd love to share some secrets with you.
Yeah. So how many people were you running?
No, that was an F&B operation. We ran banquets. We did outdoor catering. So, of course, back in the day, I used to run with 50 odd people if I'm not wrong.
So, having worked at coming from the top institutions in the country and then moving to one of the top hotel chains, the top hotel chain at that point of time in the country, and then running your own entrepreneurial journey with Eastern, why did you move to a mid-market chain? And how did Patu convince you, or who was your immediate boss at that point?
So see, my familiarity with Patu and the team then was that I had worked at the Taj and I had worked with most of them. I had seen them. Patu, of course, even back then, when he was just a resident manager of Taj Mansingh, was always a legend. He was always a very respected, very intelligent person, even back in the days of the Taj, when, he was also not running Taj for that matter. But so when I moved back to Delhi, after I had wound up my family business and I'd sold the hotel and everything, so I was looking for something to do. And Lemon Tree was setting up there. I was always very keen to go into a setup where I would be an intrapreneur, if not an entrepreneur. And Lemon Tree gave me that opportunity. In fact, I was joking with somebody that if I had not joined Lemon Tree and I'd worked in a very formal organization, which was, very driven by processes and SOPs and not a startup, I would have been sacked in 3 months and not lasted 19 years like I did.
So who was your immediate boss when you joined Lemon Tree, and what convinced you? Who did you interview with?
So my Lemon Tree career started in sales because back in the day, there were 1.5 hotels. There was no role in operations. I'd never done sales in my life, by the way. And so I used to report to a lady called Aradhana Lal, who really taught me what sales was all about. She was from the world of Taj and then Hindustan Lever. So she was a real sales champion in our business. And so she was my first boss at Lemon Tree. I did sales for the longest time ever till I got elevated as the president of the company, which was much later in 2016. But the best part of being in an entrepreneurial startup setup is that you don't do what your department is. You do everything. So I did recruitment. I used to do a bit of operations. I used to do a bit of HR. Whatever and wherever there was an opportunity, I would grab it. वो एक आमिर खान की पिक्चर है ना, ज्ञान हर जगह बट रहा है. It's up to you कि आप कितना ज्ञान समेट सकते हो. So wherever there was an opportunity to go and do something and learn, I grabbed it with, and I think that's the reason why I managed to achieve whatever little success I have so far today.
You always worked in the sales function?
My department was sales, but like I said, I went on to lead sales for the company. I was the chief revenue officer. I ran that vertical for many years. We grew so when I joined, we were like literally 1.5 hotels. And when I quit, it was
1.5 was this Udyog
You
Vihar
mean
and
Udyog Vihar was operating for a year.
Huh.
I joined in 2005 and the second hotel was just opening.
Which one was that?
The Lemon Tree in Sector 29, Gurgaon. So that's why I say 1.5 hotels, because the second one was just opening here. And from there, when I quit, it was 101 hotels.
Wow.
So
That's
it was
quite a journey.
Quite a journey.
And so you moved up the ladder in sales.
I
right?
moved up the ladder in sales, yes.
When did you become the chief revenue and sales officer?
Basically, like I said, I later took over sales. I ran the department. By 2013, if I remember right, I'd become the chief revenue officer of the company when I was leading the sales function. And later, of course, I went on to become the president where I was leading all the functions.
So how did you structure the sales team of Lemon Tree? You were operating by the time you left, I would assume about 8,000 odd rooms operational.
Close to 10.
Close to 10,000 operational rooms. So how did you structure the sales team? How many salespeople were there? You had management and leased units. So how did the management, owned and leased units sort of come together? If you can just share more light on this.
So very interesting. In fact, I thought I'll do a whole masterclass on sales and setting up a sales department, but I think you preempted me there. But see, I'll tell you how sales works typically. There is sales which you do for the unit you're based in. Okay, boss, which is my Gurgaon sales team wala I'm selling my hotels in Gurgaon. But that's not the game changer. The game changer is when you sell everything, when everybody sells everything. And I think probably I was one of the first guys who brought in group selling rather than unit selling. And we had to drill this idea down. We ran many incentive programs. We rewarded people disproportionately when they sold outbound. Because the game changer in our business is when you sell outbound. Because every hotel company has an inbound sales team who is responsible for selling those hotels, and they do it. Sab karte hain. That's not the differentiator. The differentiator is when your salespeople across the country are selling, cross-selling. And that is what I think if you ask me when I look back, what is my one big achievement, or what is that one thing I'm very proud of that I was able to achieve and get success, is cross-selling. And in Lemon Tree, I remember that initially, you have to really tune the guy to think beyond that one hotel. Because see, there are many problems and there are many limitations to that. He has not seen hotels across the country. So therefore, you need to enable him well with a lot of data, with a lot of pictorial
How
content.
did you do as an induction? Just you did it through the pictures, or did you send him to different hotels?
In fact, almost 10, 12 years ago, we introduced the concept of tablets, because back in the day, salespeople never carried tablets and all that. And we loaded content of all the hotels back there into that tablet. And I think that was one enabler, which is that, when you go to a client, you show him pictures. Because he doesn't have the time. Let's not fool ourselves. He doesn't have time to go into your website and check your pictures and your hotels and your locations. That doesn't happen. So when you're in a sales call, you make sure that you take him through your content, you take him through your locations, you talk about where you are, where you're not. In fact, let me tell you another thing. If I go to a client and say I'm in 13 cities or 15 cities, he won't remember, boss. So you've got to drill into him that we are everywhere. Mera mantra tha, usko bolo jaake we are everywhere. Because the company was growing very fast and they were putting up flags very quickly and very fast. So there was a very high probability that if he wanted a particular location, you would be there.
How do you convince me that he should be selling outbound and you are incentivizing for outbound?
That was the first reservation which came across. But it's very simple, boss. If your sales guy who's on your payroll selling me, my sales guy on my payroll is also selling you. So you've got to explain the whole ecosystem to the owner. And I think they are very reasonable people. And by and large, in these things, let me tell you, there are things which they understand. That's a very naughty grin, but a very evil grin. Yeah. I hope it's captured. But trust me, this one element wasn't difficult to explain.
Yeah.
It wasn't, because I think what also, so the way to do it is that, see, when you go and represent a chain rather than one unit, it opens a lot more doors for you. So if you, walk the market, you realize that, you may not be the preferred hotel of choice in one city, but in 20 other cities, you could be the answer to the problem that they have, which is they don't know who to contact. So there is one Spock in front of you selling 20 cities. There is no easier way to deal than that. And that works like a dream. And I think sooner or later, when they see proof of concept, the owners buy this also, and they'll bite it. 100%.
If you can just break down the incentive as like, let's say if I'm a salesperson, let's say I'm drawing 6 lakhs annually, how would my incentive be structured for cross-sell?
See, we had different incentive programs at different points of time. But I'll tell you, the purpose of an incentive is to make him do what you want and what he's not used to, by the way. So which means that you reward him disproportionately for outbound and not so much for his own unit. मतलब आप अगर पुलिस को चोर पकड़ने के लिए पैसे थोड़ी दोगे, ठीक है? So it is to drive what you don't want. The change of behavior is driven by incentive.
So how did you structure it?
How do I structure it? Yeah, let me just put it this way, that we had made sure that there were targets given and effectively, broadly, if I remember correctly, about 20 to 25% of every hotel's contribution had to be from an outbound perspective. And then you split the outbound of that 20-25% in different cities depending on potentials. You do a potential mapping, you do a target setting, and then you marry the two. That's broadly how we did it.
No, I'm talking about as an individual salesperson. Like, how would I be incentivized? Let's say I'm sitting in Lemon Tree Gurgaon and I'm selling Aurika Bombay.
Yeah.
So what would be my incentive? Like, obviously 70-80% of my target would be Lemon Tree Gurgaon. But the 20-30% which is for other hotels, how would my incentive be? Would I get 10% of my CTC, 20%?
No, it wasn't really per CTC.
Yeah.
If you ask me what was the quantum of the payout, I would say that a guy who would overachieve outbound production and back in the day could achieve as much as 30% of his CTC also. And we have examples in the system back then when people got that. People have bought houses and cars with those incentives.
Wow.
That's the quantum of money people made because of the sheer contribution that they made to outbound cities. So it's a very powerful tool. And let me tell you, to change habits, either the pain or the reward, there are two ways to do it. So it's a carrot and stick approach. Of course, the reward works much better, and nothing works better than an incentive program in sales. And in fact, we as hotels, I'm very surprised that hotel companies today do not have incentive programs for sales. How do you think insurance sells in this country? It only sells through incentives, yeah?
So 10,000 rooms, आप लोग 65-70% occupancy कर रहे होगे. How many salespeople were doing this? And what was the OTA contribution? What was the...
So OTA contribution in our business, as you know, because you've been entrenched in this business for a very, very long time, OTA business has grown over the years. In fact, pre-COVID to post-COVID, there's been a remarkable change. Today, for mid-market hotels, and I'm not talking about Lemon Tree alone, mid-market hotels, OTA contribution ranges from 30 to 35%, if not 40, depending on where you're located on that. But broadly speaking, it's 1/3. That's OTA contribution today for mid-market hotels. I'm not talking about any specific chain. Pre-COVID, this was a very different number. This was in the mid, or not even mid, early 20s. And, you can verify numbers, but this is broadly what it was. So there's been a very remarkable change in the booking habits.
So Make My Trip is a good stock to buy then?
100%. But बहुत महंगा हो गया है. I think the market cap's crossed, 11 billion dollars or something?
So you mentioned that OTA is 30 to 40% for
in the mid-market
chains. What about the rest? How many people were selling Lemon Tree for the balance of the
I'll tell you,
4,000 odd rooms a day?
Let me tell you some broad ratios that I follow as a sales leader or as a business person. These are not Lemon Tree numbers, but broadly I'll tell you, for every initially when in our business corporates were heavy and corporate contribution was as large as 60-65%. B2B was, if I take into account travel trade on that, B2B was 75% back in the day. At that time, we used to follow a principle of 25 rooms to one salesperson. Today, if you ask me, that number, for every 100 rooms, if you have one salesperson, you're sorted here.
Because of the technology?
Because of technology, because of the change in habits, because of the way things are working. 100 rooms, one salesperson, that's the way you would operate.
But that you would say if you are in A-grade locations, right?
Yeah.
Where the demand is already there.
Absolutely.
If you are in like tier 3, tier 4 or outskirts.
Not necessary, because there the geography to cover is also very limited.
So that's interesting. Now, as a salesperson, I'm starting out in the career because, you've led one of the largest chains in India for the third largest chain, I think.
Yeah.
In India for the longest time. So what do you think I should do? So I'm a salesperson, I'm starting out. Obviously, I'll get these accounts from my senior or whatever. So how often do I need to hit the account? How many times after hitting the account am I able to actually generate sale? And how should I grow
See, the first
as an individual?
misconception or one has to define is what is hitting an account. And hitting an account today doesn't mean physically calling on the guy, because he's also not too keen on seeing your face, more than once a month. In our business, I think it's more about staying in touch. And staying in touch today means more technology than in person. That's one. More importantly, you've got to dissect your accounts into, premium and developing accounts, which means that there are accounts which you want to nurture because the potential is high, and then you service your high producing accounts. Broadly speaking, there are other
I'm starting out. I don't have any high producing accounts. No one knows me in the market. I'm doing cold calling. So how do I grow?
See, very simple. You have to first map your 3-kilometer radius of your hotel. That's the first thing you do, because that is your immediate catchment area, and that's where your bread and butter will come from. Only when you've saturated the 3-kilometer radius do you go beyond the 3 and look at the larger radius to see if what else can come to me, which typically will come to you in city sold out solutions and situations.
And as a sales individual, how, you've seen ultimate heights in your career, right? Very few people in the industry have seen this.
Thank you, sir. I just got lucky, I think. Right place, right time.
So how do you think that I can reach where you have reached?
You're already way ahead of You don't have to reach where I reached. Yeah.
I think
I should ask you that. How do I reach where you reached? Yeah? How do we flip positions and sit where you are sitting here?
मजाक मत करो आप. I seriously बोल रहा हूँ कि इतने हजारों sales वाले हैं आज के दिन इंडिया में, and a lot of them aspiring to be where you are, will be aspiring to be entrepreneurs in 10 years. तो आपने जैसे growth करी, क्योंकि आपने तो you had they don't have the luxury of having worked in Taj for 4 years, doing your own entrepreneurial journey, then starting out at a startup which was Lemon Tree, right? तो उसे grow करना है, तो क्या करे? वो interdepartmental जाए, या फिर sales तो I think is the most important department, because if you know how to sell, you can pretty much learn. Yeah.
See, in our business, I'll tell you, अगर आपको माल बेचना आता ना, तो half your problem is solved. Running mid-market hotels is no rocket science. And I don't know whether you'll agree or not, but selling hotels, getting those bums on beds is the first and the foremost fundamental of our business. And second is your cost structure. Let me tell you, you get your revenue in, but your cost structure is wrong. You will never make money. So these are the two pillars of our business here: revenue and cost. And you've got to really minutely get very granular on cost.
Can you give a couple of examples of how granular you've gotten with costs in your previous avatar? We'll go through it.
I'll give you previous avatar, current avatar. Let me tell you. So what is the biggest cost in our business? The biggest cost is manpower cost. The minute you've got that, see, there are departments where you make money, and then there are departments where you don't make money.
Correct.
The question is that what do you insource and what do you outsource? And that is where the differentiation lies. Because in our business, rooms gives you 90% of your profits, if not 95. So therefore, you should focus on the places where you make the bulk of your profit. And whatever is not non-core, please outsource. And be brave enough to say that, listen, break the norms here. If you go to a hotel company and say that, you want to outsource, say, food and beverage, they'll say, no, it's our core. But there are people who do it much better than you, yeah? Why do you want to do it? If I were to ask you in the last 10 years, tell me one great food and beverage concept which has come out of a hotel and not a standalone. Trust me, you won't have an answer, because whatever brilliant concepts you've seen in the last 10 years are all done by standalones. There are experts who do that. They will make money. Let them do it, yeah?
Absolutely.
Why do you want to do it?
In your 15 years at Lemon Tree, 15, 16 years in Lemon Tree.
18 and a half
years in Lemon Tree. What do you think is your greatest contribution?
The fact that I learned enough to be an entrepreneur and set up a successful business. Yeah,
so
is my learning.
Greatest contribution. Your greatest contribution.
That you should ask them when you meet. Yeah.
What would you think is your legacy which you left at Lemon Tree? Let me put it another way.
What I left behind is something which they should answer, not me. Yeah. I can tell you what I took back.
Yeah.
And I think I'm very grateful for what I learned there. I'm very grateful for joining, a startup when I did. Because that's when you learn the most. I think the first 10 years of that company taught me more than what the best hotel schools, the best business schools in the world could have taught me. And I think, and the reason that I could gather guts, raise capital and start my own business was because of what I learned there. Yeah.
3 learnings बता दो आप कि आपके ये एक्सपीरियंस है, आप ये सीखे लेमन ट्री।
3 सिर्फ
3 बता दो आप, 3 भी बता दो, 2 भी बता दो, आप एग्जांपल के साथ बताना कि जैसे आपने।
No, I'll tell you. See, in many ways, Lemon Tree was a category creator. They created the mid-market category for India. It didn't exist before Lemon Tree started off. So let's just say it was very nascent. I wouldn't say it didn't exist, but it was very nascent. And I'll tell you why I would say Lemon Tree was a category creator, because they were the ones who went asset heavy initially. They built those hotels. They created prototypes. If you were to look back, the first 15, 20 hotels were all built ground up.
Absolutely.
So all the ratios were put into place, which means smaller rooms, lesser food and beverage, cutting out the frills of a 5-star and creating a true blue mid-market product. It wasn't that they took over existing hotels and said, these are mid-market hotels. They created the prototype. They invested capital. They worked to a plan. They worked to a business model. They worked to the ratios, and they proved it. That's why I say they're category creators. And so the learning was huge, yeah. I mean, every step of the way was a learning, yeah.
नहीं, आप मेरे को स्पेसिफिक्स बताओ. आप सेल्स वाले की तरह मत बात करो. आप मेरे को स्पेसिफिक्स बताओ. 3 चीजें जो आपने सीखी.
So I'll tell you. First and foremost is the emphasis on cost.
Yeah.
Because see, I'll tell you, revenue to a large extent or to a smaller extent, whichever, is dependent on the market. You can't go against the market and get business. अगर market में धंधा नहीं है तो नहीं है, ठीक है. अगर market के ARR 4,000 है तो आप 4,000 ही कर सकते हो, आप 8,000 नहीं कर सकते, आप 4.5 कर सकते हो if you're a superior sale. But cost is completely in your hands. And the minute you lose focus on cost, you're gone. Because revenue is cyclical. Cost is something you need to monitor every single day of your life. Every single month if you're a COO, every single week if you're a regional head, every single day if you're a general manager. But cost is the key. And that, I think, was one big learning. And I think in our business, back in the day, today, of course, people are they're far more focused. But back in the day, costs and the monitoring of cost always took a backseat.
Amazing. So that was one. Give us another 2, because I've had Nikhil. He talks about the cost which he learned at Lemon Tree.
So I'll tell you the next thing, and which I think is something which I'm trying to follow in our business, that our business, and it may sound a bit cliche, but it's always about location. I'll give you a classic example. Look how many Indian companies put up hotels in AeroCity. Very few. All those who did, it was a game changer for those companies. It's about identifying and putting up flags in the right location. And our business is all about location. Everything else secondary. The product is secondary. The brand is secondary. You put a hotel at the right location, it's a runaway success, guaranteed.
And the third thing,
I thought you've forgotten the third. Third, I'll tell you, is to take care of your people. And Lemon Tree was the first hotel company that I know of which had ESOPs for employees. Back in the day, there were listed companies even earlier. But I don't think any hotel company gave ESOPs to employees. And I think the fact that Lemon Tree rewarded people who joined them early.
Were they generous?
They were decently generous, yes. No, I can't complain. I made some good money from the ESOP program.
He's a legend. What Patu's done, especially the human touch he brought into the business.
Absolutely.
Right, from the dogs and the...
the whole... people with disability initiative is legendary.
Yeah.
We can do another episode just talking about that, which we will.
So, आप मेरे को बताओ, not many Mayoites go to SRCC then to Harvard. यार, आप Harvard कहाँ पहुँच गए?
Yeah, Harvard was much later in my life, and it was I did the AMP program, the Advanced Management Program, which is a condensed MBA of sorts. It's an executive MBA of sorts. So you spend 2 months there. They make you work. They make you study 14, 15 hours a day. They make you present cases. You're up against the finest brains in the world because you've got, the CXOs of the top Fortune 500 companies. So it was a life-changing experience. And I think anybody and everybody who gets a chance should do something in the executive education space. Try and do a program. It completely changes your perspective. It makes you see the world very differently. It makes you see scale very differently, because right now when you're in your business, you have a very myopic approach. It takes you to a level where you can see that, listen, what I am doing today, I can do 20x more, and it tells you how to get there. So I think the biggest learning in that Harvard program was to see how you could, embrace scale. And it's not difficult. It's just to change your perspective, and that's what they're teaching.
So why did you decide to quit a company you were working for 18 years?
No, I didn't.
Helming the company was also obviously growing and must have been a tough decision.
It was a very tough decision. And, if it was for another job, I would have probably never quit. I would have never ever, I couldn't think of life working as an executive in a company outside of Lemon Tree because it was part of family. It was it become part of my DNA. But, I think the hotel cycle was changing and there was no better time to be an entrepreneur than now. You see, the next 5, 6, 7 years, and I can tell you this is not just cyclical, it's more structural, are going to be the best for the hotel industry. People thought that, 2023 was a flash in the pan, 24 was better. And I see this bull run continuing for many years to come. So, the timing. So, you see, when you're turning an entrepreneur, you've got to time the cycle. And I thought that there is no other better time than now to join hotels. I was lucky enough to raise some capital. I had enough and more experience backing me. So, all the ingredients fell in place. And I said, if not now, then when? And I didn't want to miss this cycle because I would have been too old for the next 1 year.
So what is the gap you're filling in the market?
I'm not filling a gap. And I'll tell you a classic example. Let me ask you, who started the low-cost aviation boom in this country? Who was the pioneer?
Deccan.
Not Indigo.
Yes.
Who's the finest player in the business? Who's the most efficient player in the business?
Indigo.
So I'm not filling any gap. Yeah, we are a population of 140 crores. Even if you assume that the consuming household is only 15 to 20 crores, we only have 2 lakh branded rooms. All I'm saying is that I am serving an underserved hotel market. We are completely underpenetrated.
Who do you see as a competitor?
Any mid-market company. And I don't see competitor, I think, because there is so much of, there's dearth of mid-market supply in this country. So there are 10 more players like me who can come up and we will still all be making money and we will still not be able to serve the entire consuming population of India.
You said this is the best time to start an entrepreneurial journey, right? You see the market booming over the next 5, 7 years in hospitality. How did you come up with the name? How did you start out?
I'm more a sales guy and not a marketing guy. So word Alivaa means new beginnings. मुझे नाम अच्छा लगा. मैंने कहा it's a new beginning of my life. It's a new beginning for the company. It's a new beginning for the hotel chain. So Alivaa नाम आ गया. Very simple. ज़्यादा ज्ञान मतलब ज़्यादा मैंने उस पर रिसर्च नहीं किया, ज़्यादा दिमाग नहीं लगाया. ऐसे बिजनेस मॉडल पे ध्यान देते हैं. नाम में कुछ भी रख दो चल जाएगा.
तो सरोवर, क्लार्क्स, लेमन ट्री ये लोग मैनेजमेंट ज्यादा करते हैं. लीज और आज के दिन लीज कम करते हैं. एंड but Bloom, Ginger, and Ginger does management also, but mostly now they've done large format leases, and Bloom of course only does leases, and Alivaa is getting into that space of leases. So why should I, as an asset owner, give you my hotel versus a Bloom or a Ginger?
Absolutely. So good question. See, the reason I do leases is because I'm not a brand. So why would anybody come to me with a management contract? Because okay, past is past, but what have I today? I've got 3 hotels to showcase. So why should I get hotels and management contract? So the first 10, 12, 15 assets will have to be on revenue share, will have to be on leases. I'm telling you the reality today. And which is why I want to get into leases. And I'll tell you the other reason. See, the quantum of money that you make as an operator in a management contract, and you'll know it better than anyone else, in terms of sheer numbers, is a very small number. You make what, 5, 6, 7% of top line. In our business, in the lease model, if you get it right, let me break down a hotel P&L. 100 रुपए top line, आप 50% GOP करते हो mid market में. In our business, in the lease business, 25 owner को मिलता है, 25 आप रखते हो. So effectively, you're making as much as the asset owner. If you can manage to drive revenues and with the right cost structure. And therefore, it is chunky revenue. You see? So effectively, what am I saying? If your management contract, you make 5%, in a lease, you make 25%. So for every 5 rooms that somebody signs under management contract, I make the same money with 1 room. So 1 leased room is equal to 5 managed rooms in terms of the volume, in terms of the number. So what am I saying? If I'm focusing and I'm spending energies, I'd rather spend it on making more money than less money.
That is great, bro.
So it's a 1:5 ratio, by the way.
So I agree that this is the way to go, especially in hotels where you have like locations where you have guaranteed occupancy like Gurgaon. But let's say Ginger is giving you like 12 to 16%. Maximum they'll go up to, let's say, 18%. Bloom gives you 30%. Right? This is net of GST. where is Alivaa in the system, and why should I, let's say, not go with obviously a legacy brand like IHCL
See,
or
my funda is very clear.
Yeah.
It is earn before you burn.
Yeah.
I will only sign leases if they make economic sense to me. I'm very happy letting go of contracts. I'm very happy letting go of hotels if it does not make financial sense to me, because I sign long leases. I sign leases which are 20, 25, even 29 years. So I'm very clear, boss. In our business, let me tell you that this is upcycle, but there is also cyclicity. I have seen from 2004 to 2024. I have seen the upcycle. I have seen the down cycle. I have seen shortage of supply. I have seen an oversupply situation. I'm here in it for the long haul. I'm very happy to let go of hotels. I'm very happy to make sure that somebody else takes it, because I'm not looking at 5 years. I'm looking at 25 years. I'm looking at the cyclicity of that asset. And therefore, I'm very clear that I will only do what makes financial sense to me.
How much revenue share can I expect as a owner?
All depends on location to location. Even within the location depends on micro location. For example, Sona Road versus, say, Dwarka Expressway in Gurgaon will have very different commercials here.
Understood. Now, can you take us through a typical P&L and how you've driven efficiencies in Alivaa, and what kind of manpower ratios are you? Firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on literally redefining the industry. Like Bloom took it to a level, Olive started doing slightly lower, and you've gone even lower.
No, well, I run a mid-market hotel, for it's a 150 room hotel where we are sitting right now with about 50 people. So 50, 52, 54, I don't know, somewhere in that number, because every time I speak to the general manager, there's a reason we need to take one more guy. But so, see, like I said, in our model, in the Alivaa model, what I have decided is that we will outsource food and beverage. So I don't run food and beverage in the hotel. I don't do the restaurant. I don't do the room service. I don't do any food and beverage operation. This is a pure rooms only, and food and beverage is run by the experts. And that's my model going forward as well, to the maximum possible extent. There may be some exceptions where I might have to do food and beverage myself, but that will be my last option, not my preferred option. We would like to try and focus on rooms, which is what our core is, and let the experts run food and beverage.
So can you define it for 150 rooms? Let us take 150 rooms and let's take 55 people.
Yeah.
Out of 55 people, department-wise, how many people do you have?
Housekeeping has 24. Front office has about 12. Rest is engineering, back of the house, finance, sales, put together.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what kind of occupancies are you driving in the hotel?
Well, this is peak season. So we were last month, we were at 84%, which is not too bad.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And you have another hotel coming up in Corbett?
Yeah, so that's in Alivaa, which is a resort, which will open in about 6 months.
It's completely different. Like Corbett is a leisure destination. Here you are in a city destination.
See, if you've got to be a pan-India player,
Yeah.
you've got to be across the spectrum. And let me tell you another thing about leisure and my view on leisure. India has some great luxury hotels in leisure. There aren't too many mid-market players in the leisure business chain. I want to put up hotels in all the key leisure locations of India where the mid-market traveler goes. Because let me tell you, not everyone can pay top dollar. Not everyone can book a room at $500 to $1,000 a night, which is what you pay over Christmas, New Year's as an example. There are takers for that sweet spot, which is between $100 to $200. And that sweet spot doesn't have enough inventory in the leisure space in this country. And anybody who makes an attempt to grab that space will,
Don't you think you're making a mistake by, let us say, having the same brand for leisure and and because $100 to $200 is, let's say, a 16,000 rupee hotel, right? Like as a leisure traveler, right? So if I look at Taj, as a leisure...
No, I said 100 to 200. When I said 200 is more opportunistic, which is, at super peak periods, long weekends, Christmas, New Year.
But do you think the same brand would work for both?
Absolutely, because if you look at any brand in India today, the leisure ARR has a 1.5x multiple on the business ARR.
Absolutely.
Same brand, same segment, same traveler, because he's paying much more when he's going for
What about the manpower ratio there?
Will be a little different.
Yeah.
Because leisure, what happens is that, the guy in a typical business hotel, the guy is only with you for breakfast and then he leaves.
Yes.
He comes home for dinner probably has had dinner. Half the guys don't have dinner. So basically, for those 9 to 10 hours of the day, there's nobody in the hotel. In leisure, you have him 24/7. So therefore, manpower requirements, in fact, I'm fine-tuning that. But I will try and come up with something very revolutionary when I launch the first leisure hotel. And we'll love to talk about it later when I've fine-tuned the ratios. But it'll be definitely far more efficient than what you've so far seen in the industry.
That's amazing. I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Who's your co-founder? Tell us more about him, and why do you think a co-founder is important to start out?
It's very important to complement your skills. See, I was from sales and operations. I needed somebody from a financial background. So my co-founder Inder has worked, and I were colleagues for the last 17 or 16 and a half years in Lemon Tree. So of course, there's a there's excellent working relationship. We worked very closely. So, whenever you choose a co-founder in the business, you should have complementary skills rather than, in the sense that you specialize in X and he specializes in Y. So the two skills complement each other, and they have to be the skills necessary for a business. He's from the finance background. He handles the entire, whatever I don't handle, he handles. And he's also the cost champion, by the way.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which I said was the key lever. Because in my business, I'm leasing hotels. I am responsible for the P&L. I take the P&L risk. So therefore, the cost is completely on me. And therefore, I needed the best guy in costs to handle that piece.
So what kind of IRRs is this hotel generating for you?
Very interesting, yeah. See, I'll tell you how a lease model works here. Typically, when you take a hotel on lease, average spend per key is between 3 to 5 lakhs. Assuming there's some deposit, there's some working capital requirement, there is some upgradation in the property, you need to bring in your own tech stack, all of that put together, 3 to 5 lakh. In my model, if after stabilization, which I'm saying 2 years, maybe earlier as well, I should make that kind of return every year. So 5 lakh, agar maine ek kamre mein dala hai, to 2 saal baad, every year I should make 5 lakhs. Post-lease rentals. So,
amazing.
Ganit aap kar lo, sir.
That's amazing. And how did you end up raising funds? And
So that's very interesting. So, back in the day, this idea was germinating for a while. And I did speak to a few investors and all of that. But I think the guy who came forward and wrote the first check was my school buddy. This is a guy called Anirudh. He and I went to school together and college together. That's a rare combo, by the way.
And a rare combo from Mayo and SRCC. Coming from a DOSCO.
Well, I didn't see too many DOSCOs in SRCC, by the
way. No, that's not true.
But, I think with him, it was more a leap of faith. I don't think he dwelled too much into my Excel sheets and those fancy decks I'd created. It was more said, Vikram, if you want to do it, here it is, start. And the rest followed. So the first check is, I think, what I'm most grateful to, because that is what made me embark on this entrepreneurial journey.
And then who did you get it?
And then, of course, I had Ananta Capital. They're very marquee investors. They have multiple investments across the spectrum. And I think they liked what I showed. They are the best investors you can have on your cap table. Very supportive. They let you do your business. And I think, we'll, and like they said, we'll go a long way with them.
Amazing. And so basically you got the funds in and you took this asset. You invested a significant amount of capital in this asset.
Yeah.
Right?
So the way I've structured this one is that, obviously I had to make a start somewhere. What I was very sure about is that I'll never compromise on location. So the way we structured this deal is that we've put in some amount of capital, which will be adjusted with the rentals. And then, of course, as we pay lease rentals, the deposit, which is in the form of an advance rental, gets adjusted over a period of 4.5 years.
That's amazing. And which is going to be your second asset other than Corbett in a city?
So right now we are negotiating a lot of deals. I'm looking at something in Bombay. I'm looking at something in Bangalore. I'm looking at something in Udaipur. I'm looking at a couple more in Gurgaon. So Gurgaon is one market which I would really like to saturate. I don't mind putting up 10 assets in Gurgaon because it is a very deep market.
And you would rather go deeper in one city than...
I would rather not spread myself too thin.
Yeah.
So I'd look at focusing on 8 to 10 cities initially, preferably even less, maybe 4 or 5 to begin with in stage 1 of this journey. Yeah.
But aap Corbett to chali gaye ho. Gurgaon mein you signed another management contract under a new brand.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what I'm looking at. So that's a franchise, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think, when you look at, so let me give you a classic example. Today, there are about 2 lakh branded rooms, which we all know about. But if you look at India's largest online travel agent, which is Make My Trip, can you take a wild guess how many rooms are listed on the Make My Trip platform?
6 lakh.
Exactly double of that. 12-13 lakh kamre.
That's crazy.
So what I'm saying is that there is a big and a very clear opportunity to aggregate those rooms. Now, a true blue franchise operation will not do it for you, because I think the biggest pain point for these hotel owners is sales and distribution. They run the hotels very smartly. Their cost, typically the owner is sitting there himself. So the cost structure which he gets, nobody else can. He's got his cost there. He delivers decent customer experience, but he doesn't know how to get that customer. What I'm attempting to do with Hoften, which is my other brand, is that we franchise with sales and marketing responsibility. And how we define sales and marketing will get fine-tuned as we go along. But typically, I am responsible for getting bums on beds, either through one segment or through all segments, depending on the arrangement I have with the owner. But I'm trying to do franchise. I'm trying to aggregate a large inventory here, a large pool of inventory. And I also want to take some amount of sales and marketing ownership and responsibility, which will, of course, we'll fine tune as we go along, because that is the pain point. The pain point is nothing else.
Distribution is the biggest pain point for any hotel owner.
Any small standalone owner, all he needs is मुझे धंधा लाके दो boss, बाकी मैं सब कर दूंगा.
Revenue solves all problems.
So I am trying to solve. So through my, people do franchise, which is management, which is a franchise with some amount of management intervention.
I was mentioning that. Yeah.
ठीक है. In my view, franchise नहीं चाहिए यार. Small owners want, something called sales plus franchise. They want revenue. They want dhanda. Baki sab ho jayega, boss. So that's the problem I'm trying to solve and do it a little differently. I'm saying that, I will in some form or fashion take ownership of your top line. I'm not saying P&L, I'm saying top line. Whether through some segments or through all segments, depending on the arrangement I have with the owner.
That's amazing.
So it's a franchise with a twist, by the way.
So 3 years from today, how many rooms in Alivaa? How many rooms in Hoften?
See, Alivaa will be more, organic and slow. I think Hoften can do maybe 5,000 rooms, 3,000 rooms. I don't know. I don't know what I'll achieve. I don't know how this model will be successful, because it's something which nobody's attempted to do, because people typically do not take sales and marketing or revenue responsibility in a franchise. I am doing the reverse. I am taking to some or large extent this revenue responsibility for that owner.
So all hotel owners who are facing problems with sales,
come and franchise with my brand, yeah.
Come and franchise with Hoften, yeah. Why not?
So that's what I'm attempting to do. I don't know where this will go, but there is a gap. There is a big need.
I truly believe there's a huge need. I don't know whether it'll be solved by franchise or by just sales and distribution. That time will tell, because both have their use case, and for different owners, different use cases.
Absolutely.
However, I truly believe that the distribution is the biggest problem for anyone. And even if you have 3,000 to 5,000 rooms, like you think about loyalty programs which are successful in the world, I don't see, apart from Hilton and Marriott, there's something which is hugely successful.
Spoken about or got traction.
Hugely successful. Like you have like brands like the top Indian brands, they haven't been able to succeed with the kind of conglomerate might which they have, whether it's an ITC or an IHCL or a Lemon Tree. Because I don't know, and how will you solve for that? Because even if you have 3,000, 5,000 rooms, it's nothing in the larger scheme of things. So are you going to tie up with a brand for loyalty, or how are you going to do it?
See, I haven't thought so much about the loyalty program, because like I like to keep quoting Indigo. I think it's the 7th largest airline in the world, and it has probably in its 18th year of operation attempting to do a loyalty program. 18th year of operation, 7th largest airline in the world. It did not have a loyalty program till 6 months ago.
So, see, I agree with you there. However, my counter to that would be that basically Indigo is operating in an oligopolistic market. Right? I'll give you a classic example.
It may be today. It didn't when it started off.
I agree.
When it started off, loyalty program was a flavor of the day. Everybody, Kingfisher, Jet, they were all talking about loyalty programs.
Kingfisher and Jet were in a different segment. Now, let us say in if you look at like Hilton is entering Spark or whatever they've signed up with Embassy, Spark X. So they are entering the segment. And so is Marriott. Marriott bought that City Max hotels or something in Dubai. Mexico, I
Uh-huh.
think, in South America somewhere. And they are also entering the mid-market because obviously they have to grow from the size they are at. So, and what I saw was like, I think Standard has been bought by Hyatt, but I was staying at a Standard in Bangkok for a friend's wedding.
Hmm.
And one of my friends stayed at the W just because he was a Bonvoy customer.
Hmm. Agreed.
So that I think is, there is a huge case for that. And once sort of they enter the space which the 6-7 Indian brands are operating in, I think that either there'll have to be some sort of conglomerate which will have to be formed.
See, yes and no. Like I said, I'm not a very firm believer of loyalty programs today. Because let me tell you another point. It is very nice to talk about the positives of loyalty program. Do you know what it costs a hotel? So if a gold or a plat member comes to that hotel, the hotel, pays shitloads to service that customer. You get early check-in, you give late checkout, you give free breakfast, you give free club floor, you give free alcohol, you give free starters, you give suite upgrade. You give him the works, yeah. Second person stays free. It's not easy. It's not cheap, boss. The hotel, that individual asset pays a lot of money. It's almost as expensive as getting a customer through an OTA, yeah. Maybe more. So it's not that the loyalty program doesn't come with its own embedded costs. One may not talk about it. You only talk about the positives, but there is a whole cost associated with a loyalty member, and the higher the higher the member in terms of the status, the more you pay in servicing him, boss. So it's not for free. And I think today the owner is becoming more and more aware of what
he's paying
and what he's paying to service that loyalty guest. अगर मेरे को 20% लगने वाला है to service a loyalty guest, rather pay an OTA 15% and get that business, yeah. It's better. Cheaper. So it's not that the loyalty program doesn't come with its embedded costs. There is a cost to it. And in my view, in the mid-market, especially the segment which I'm trying to target with Hoften, it may not be that necessary. I think instant gratification is more important. If I give you that discount upfront, if I give you the best rates upfront, if I give you the best deal upfront, if I give you the best locations upfront, and if I can, address your travel needs, I don't think loyalty is a game changer. It's important, but I'm here to break the norm here.
Amazing.
I'm not here to follow the norm. I personally think that, I could set up a few thousand rooms even without a loyalty program. But that's my belief. I could be completely wrong.
No, I'm sure you will. How is technology going to play a role in Alivaa?
Very true, yeah. Because see, like I said, if I want to be the most efficient operator, I need to make sure that my ratios are in control. While I haven't really focused on it yet, but I want, I have some broad thoughts. If today, through Digi Yatra and through a kiosk, you don't need any human intervention and you could be literally at the tarmac boarding the aircraft. So why does the hotel check-in process require so much of human intervention? These are broad thoughts I'm toying with. Why can't the Digi Yatra validation also work for hotels? Why can't the same kiosk be used for a mid-market customer and just the key comes out and he goes to the room? So these are broad thoughts I have. I'm working on them. It's very initial days. Maybe in a few months, I'll probably have crystallized them. But I'm thinking that अगर airline में हो सकता है, where the risk and is so much higher, तो hotel में क्यों नहीं हो सकता है?
Olive is doing this.
Exactly. And I would love to study that model more.
Yeah, I'm also going to get deeper into that model, but I'm really glad that they've started this in India.
Absolutely. And it's very important.
Yeah. What is your end goal? Are you going to be listing the business?
Absolutely, boss.
So
my investors, everybody needs a monetization.
Yes.
But I want to list it when I have the scale. So this company has to be IPO-able. And for that, I need scale, I need profitability, and I need the right business model, which will differentiate me from the clutter.
Objective क्या है? मतलब आप 3 साल में कहाँ turnover? What is your objective? Turnover, rooms, what is your objective?
See, objective always changes. When
but अभी क्या है?
I'll tell you, because when you start off a company, you say that I want to retire in 5 years. When you get to that 5-year, 5 साल वाला पड़ाव में आप पहुंचते हो तो आप कहते हो नहीं I want to be the largest in India. Then you say I want to be the largest in Asia. So I think those are changing goalposts. I don't know, the way I look at it today may not be the way I look at it 3 years from now, may not be the way I look at it 6 years from now. But yes, the idea is to list the company, and before that, make it a very large company.
But there's no objective in for 3 years or a 5-year plan which you...
Yeah, I don't mind if I work till the last day of my life. So
Oh, I'm saying that like a short-term plan. Do you have something that, let's say, I'm going to touch a 500 crore revenue or a 2,000?
no, so like I said, my first target is that I need to cross 50 hotels in 5 years.
50 hotels in 5 years. So that's where we can
5
see.
साल में 50.
Great. And इसमें से Alivaa कितने होंगे और Hoften कितने?
I can't tell at the moment, boss, because these are opportunities which are coming along. Obviously, what I can say, there'll be more Hoftens and less Alivas, broadly speaking. But I don't know how many of what, I don't know.
So Vikram,
Because Hoften is more scalable.
absolutely. So Vikram, who do you think is who you've learned most from in your life?
Yeah, I spent 19 years with one boss, so I think I would say Patu would be the guy I've learned all of it from.
One thing which you would like to share about him?
I think all my learnings was him, it was all him. The fact that he's created a wonderful company. A couple of things which I always remember about him. One is, of course, he's always taught us earn before you burn, which I mentioned earlier as well. It's very important to first get the revenues in, and then it's very easy to burn. So, it's difficult to first make money and then burn. So earn before you burn is one mantra I've taken to my heart and my life. And I know I every single decision I take when I'm spending money, it's at the back of my mind.
Other than work, what keeps you occupied?
At the moment, it's only work. I enjoy spending time with the family. I've got 2 young kids who are also now turning entrepreneur. So suddenly we all become a family of entrepreneurs. And my wife jokes and says, if nothing works out, I said, then we'll go to the Gurdwara or Langar khayenge.
You spend time with the family. Any other hobbies? You like reading?
No, I do a little bit of reading. I like to, as far as possible, I've now started, working out a little bit, trying to focus on health, trying to get my habits in place. So I think right now my key focus is to kind of get the health going properly. Not that I have any health problem, but to get more regulated and more disciplined in my life.
A meeting you'd like to have?
A meeting I'd like to have. I think I would, if you ask me, I would like to meet people outside the industry. I think our industry thinks in a particular fashion. So any out-of-the-box thinker is a meeting I'd like to have.
Someone alive or dead who you'd like to meet?
Alive or dead?
Like someone who you like to sit and have a coffee with. Someone who you sort of looked up to. Could be Mahatma Gandhi, could be anyone.
Okay, so I think a couple of people who I would look up to and want to meet, and people who built very large businesses, So like, for example, I'd love to meet Vijay Shekhar Sharma, who built Paytm, because what he created, I'm not looking at the, don't go by the P&L, don't go by, but the sheer, what he created, the scale of the business.
It's crazy,
is phenomenal. He got that little QR code to the length and breadth of India, from a cobbler to a Michelin star restaurant. You could go anywhere and you'll have a QR code to scan and pay. So that's how you've created scale. And that's what I want to do. And that's what I want to learn. So you see, in India today, if you look at the largest hotel company, they have 18,000-20,000 rooms. What I'm saying is that why can't we have, 1 lakh rooms here? What's stopping us from creating 1 lakh rooms here?
A meeting that changed your life.
A meeting that changed my life. I think my investors, because
what did you meet them?
That meeting with them, I met them. I think towards the end of about a year ago. But I think that one meeting changed my life, and I'll tell you why. Because that one meeting set me on my entrepreneurial journey. That one meeting, the commitment, the shaking of hands, and the commitment of funds.
Who was that with?
So that meeting was with the lead at Ananta Capital, who are my anchor investors.
The names?
I met Ashu Tapadia, I met Lavkesh Kapoor, and I met Akash Anand, the 3 guys who take all decisions there. And Ashu being, of course, the family office from where the money comes from. And I think that one meeting was completely changed my life, because that's when I decided that, yes, now I can be an entrepreneur. I have capital backing me. I have people who have conviction in my business model, who like the way I think, and are willing to back me up, with money.
That's amazing. And book that changed your life?
Good to Great, Jim Collins. If you have the wrong person on the right seat, remove him. Because you're doing a disservice to the organization by having a wrong person in the right seat, leading a function, leading a vertical, leading a role which he cannot do justice to. Because कई बार आप ना हमारे business में ये है, by the way, loyalty versus competence. There's a big dilemma. In my view, if you choose loyalty over competence, you actually do a disservice to the larger organization because you're not being able to reward them in the way you should have and you could have, because you've got the wrong guy leading your role.
Other than Mr. Keswani, of course, the industry leader you admire most?
See, I admire Puneet Chatwal. I've never met him, but I think what he's done to IHCL is phenomenal. It was a sleeping giant. He's completely turned it around. Market cap like never before. I think it's crossed 1 lakh crores. Amazing, boss. Amazing.
That's amazing. Anything you do for your mental health?
For my mental health, unfortunately, I don't do much, but I am now being coaxed by my wife ke aap meditation shuru karo. So I am attempting to do meditation now.
What kind of meditation?
I don't know. If I did, I would have started. I've not started yet.
You must start. Any steps you've taken for employee welfare?
See, at the moment, it's a very small company. It's family. So my welfare is their welfare. Their welfare is my... So I of course need to think about it as we add more people, as we add people in different geographies who I don't meet and see every day. But today it's a very small knit family.
The toughest time of your life?
COVID.
Other than COVID, because
No, and when I meant COVID, I'll tell you it was the toughest time because, at that time you realize that, see, when you're hit with something which you could have never even in your wildest of dreams imagined, and how you improvise, how you change things, how you change business models to survive, that I think is what COVID taught us.
I think all of us operated like cockroaches then. And
whatever we did, I think that learning
surprised.
That learning is the reason why the industry has become so more efficient today.
So much more.
And it's growing so fast.
Thank you, Vikram. It was absolutely a pleasure speaking to you. And we look forward to Alivaa becoming one of the largest chains in the country.
Thank you so much.
And it's been a great learning for me as well to sit in.
Thank you. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you on camera, off camera. Always a pleasure.